wrestling with wrestling's past and present.
How old were you?
I was -3.
JR is trying to contain Jim Ross.
McFlurry,
It's Mick Foley. Do you see any of the aggro crag? Was any of that left over?
No, unfortunately not.
No?
I'm taking some of that home.
Definitely not is the barn burner that Leaf Cassidy and Tiger thing was, but we'll leave that there.
We digress.
God, I hope that storyline ends soon.
And 6 to 8 weeks later, they mail you a freaking magnet.
Yep. You may know him as the Red Rooster.
Is it still real to me? Damn it!
He kept making out with his wife. It was weird. So then, I'm waiting for them to put the Selena Vega on a pole match.
And I mean, Big E's got Whale performing in his entrance, so I feel like
Wale.
Wale. I don't listen to. Okay, well, I don't listen to him, so I apologize to Wale.
This is in the mail, my good sir. No, it wasn't. Paul.
I feel like Vince is just gonna have them team together and be like, have them called Woo Bro. Like they're just gonna be the Woo Bros. Like, anyway.
Giving us a reason to come here and listen to ourselves talk.
Absolutely,
and then you can listen to us too.
Strap on and balls only on wrestling past and present.
This is Gangrel, the Vampire Warrior, and you're listening to Wrestling where wrestling's past and present.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Roland Pulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And as you may have noticed, we are down a man. We are a man down today on our episode. We had last minute text from Tim saying he had some stuff come up, family stuff, or life got hectic or whatnot, got in the way, and he asked if we could hold the fort down. And I don't know if we're gonna fail, but we're gonna die trying. Put it that way.
I was gonna say, last time it was just you and I. There was some distribution issues, so Tim, you're still in charge of distributing the episode. We're just going to talk. That's all we're doing.
we literally just discussed this before we went live, Tim. If you do hear this, the least you can do is do that for us, so that way we don't screw up again. Because the last time it was a mess. So we know you have some. It's all in good fun too, but no, seriously, you can do that part because we would know.
Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope.
Right. So on our episode today, we are going to go over NXT Takeover Toronto from 2016, and we're also going to go over our Full Gear predictions from last Saturday's pay-per-view for AEW. We'll start with NXT Toronto Takeover 2016. They had 2 dark matches, and I'm not going to do what Tim does. I'm just going to kind of skip through this because the dark matches, we didn't see them. So Kona Reeves defeated Rich Swann. Well, actually, it was a no contest in a singles match in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And the second dark match was Aliyah, Ember Moon, Liv Morgan defeated Sonya Deville, Billie Kay, and Peyton Royce in a 6-woman tag match. Anything you want to add to that, Mongo?
Just the fact that this must have been pre-Iconics because I've never seen their names really written out. So that's interesting. But yeah, I don't think we had a chance. I think this was only for the crowd in Toronto, but I'm sure they were probably decent.
Yeah, I mean, they were both the 6-woman tag was 5 minutes, 40 seconds. So there wasn't a whole lot going on there, honestly, in the match, I would imagine. But yeah, interesting to see Sonya Deville with the Iconics and Liv Morgan with Ember Moon and Aliyah. That's kind of a weird to think about. And ironically enough, there's only 2 of these women still with the company.
I know. I think that's going to be a theme of the show because, I mean, we're probably going to hit it. But again, what happened, I feel like every time we do an NXT episode, it's like, oh, here's some more releases. So even some freshies from, this one, there's some people on here that we'll talk about later that were just fired yesterday.
Yeah. The interesting thing, too, is that you see more and more superstars and wives of superstars and whatnot coming out after the fact saying, what if you guys just didn't watch and didn't support WWE? When's enough going to be enough? And I know that John Morrison's wife, Taya Valkyrie, made that exact comment of just stop supporting them because they are not helping anyone. They're screwing people over, letting people go, holding people for ransom, and then just letting them go, not doing anything with them, preventing them going to wrestling for other companies, but then saying they're going to sign them, do something with them, and then they don't, and just it's a cluster. I'm not going to say that I'm going to stop watching, but I will say that I have watched less and less the last month or so to begin with, just because A, I haven't had the time, and B, it's not even that interesting. I did watch most of Raw this past Monday. I watched, I think, the last half of SmackDown the week. I didn't watch any of it this week because we're recording this Friday night, full disclosure. So I was watching the NXT show we were covering. But, if there was a way to lead the charge of, not supporting Vince McMahon anymore, I would be all for it. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing NXT here. I know that NXT is WWE, and they're going to be like, oh, you're still watching WWE. Well, it's still not WWE in my mind. I mean, I get that the buck stops with Vince, but this is back when Triple H had pretty much total control over the show, and you could tell. So,
no, absolutely, and that's the hardest part about watching these NXT shows is you see what could have been and what was. I mean, to jump right into it, this crowd was so electric from the moment the first entrance happened. This is the crowd that went to AEW. This is the crowd that everyone says, they felt like they were witnessing history, witnessing a revolution. And then when Vince put the kibosh on the revolution, they went and found the alternative. And even indie wrestling, I go to Limitless Wrestling up in Maine, right outside of Biddeford. It's $20. And I've seen people who've wrestled on Impact pay-per-views. I've seen people who've wrestled in AEW. And, I'd rather give $60 to see tickets to go see independent wrestling or give, $80 go see AEW. Hell, I'd even go see Impact for, buy another live event WWE because, like you said, it's really hard to support a company that every time you like a wrestler, they get fired, they get buried, or their gimmick gets changed to the point you just don't care about them anymore because it's a big movie production and all he wants is his character. So it's like watching a reboot of your favorite show when you were a kid. Like you loved it in the 90s, and then they rebooted it, and they're like, oh, by the way, the part of Roland is now being played by Mongo McQueen, and, it's going to be played by this unnamed actor. And oh, by the way, yes, thank you. I'm glad you got that reference. So it's like, stop screwing with what people like. I mean, like Roman Reigns, that gimmick worked. When you changed Stone Cold, that worked. But sometimes, like, hey, we're going to talk about a wrestler, in one of the matches coming up who literally changed to fucking T-Bar. Slapjack, excuse me, not T-Bar, like you put him in a whole different gimmick and then you fire him. So it just sucks that these wrestlers have such a great moveset and they just don't care about the wrestling itself. They only care about the gimmicks and the storyline. There was a great article out recently where it's this new guy there that everyone hates talking about how they have a wrestling ring, but they're not a wrestling company, which makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever. That Nick Khan guy, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, that guy seems to be a fucking tool bag. You can clearly tell he has no love for the wrestling business. It is a business to him, and to put him in a position of any sort of power is the biggest mistake you can make. Just like having writers that have no wrestling experience that don't know if it's Bobby Lashley or Bobby Ashley before you end up firing them. It's just I don't know if Vince is just like gone crazy or if he's fucking stupid or what, but the last, I don't know, couple of years have really opened my eyes as to what a terrible person he is for what he's done to some of these performers, blacklisting them essentially from different promotions, like I said, hoarding them, signing them all, and then just releasing them later. Like, who does that? Like, who signs all these guys, all these women, men, superstars, wrestlers, whatever you want to call them, and then just lets them go in waves like it's nothing? A schmuck. That's exactly who does it. A schmuck. Like that's what you describe.
Can you imagine just like these wrestlers, one day you're working WrestleMania 37, and then, before it even gets to the Royal Rumble, you're getting a phone call saying your services are no longer needed. I mean, we had almost 9 performers from this year's WrestleMania that are no longer working there. And there's some big names on that list. We're not going to repeat the list. You can look at our socials. You can pretty much Google who's been fired, but over 200 people since last April.
Well, and the list that just came out, I mean, you have John Morrison, you have everybody from Hit Row, which is funny that they fired one a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, and they just fired the other 3 this past release. Tegan Knox, Drake Maverick, who I will give credit that I don't know who produced that, if he did or somebody he knew, but that clip that he has going on Twitter is amazing. If you have not seen the Rockstar Spud Drake Maverick getting fired and what do I do next kind of video thing. It's totally worth it's like 4 minutes long, totally worth the 4 minutes. And then you have somebody like Mongo said, Shane Thorne, and then you have Jackson Riker, who they just kind of rebranded him twice in the last 6 months, and now he's gone. So it's just I don't know.
And then even just looking at before we get into the first match, the Dusty Road bracket down here, I'm seeing names of people that are either rebranded or just they had and they completely whiffed on. You have Riddick Moss, who's now basically a lackey to fucking Baron Corbin.
Mad Cat Moss.
You have Tino Sabatelli, who his claim to fame is he was the AEW snitch. He leaked out spoilers, came back to NXT, got fired again. Heavy Machinery disbanded. Austin Aries gone. Roderick Strong gone. They had Ibushi. You had fucking Ibushi, one of the best wrestlers in the world, Kenny Omega's tag team partner. Mm-hmm. And he didn't sign with you because he saw the direction you're going into. And then you paired him up with TJ Perkins because Kenta, a.k.a. Oh my God, what was his terrible WWE name there?
Hideo Itami.
Thank you. They were supposed to be a tag. They could have just run this tournament, but they both saw the writing on the wall. He got hurt, and then Ibushi's like, yeah, I'm out. He didn't even sign a contract. And then you have Sandy, they're gone. Authors of Pain, they're gone. Bollywood Boys, they're gone. No Way Jose and Rich Swann, yeah, they're both an Impact. Drew Gulak, Tony Nese, they're gone. The Revival, they're gone. DIY, they're split up. There's Johnny Gargano, he's probably going to be gone. Tian Bing and Ho Ho Lun, no idea who they are, but they're probably gone. So it's 5 years later from what, without spoiling anything, was a really decent pay-per-view and a good tournament that actually made sense because like our last complaint, we talked about how there wasn't really established tag teams. How do you let this go? And that's my biggest issue is how do you have this talent? Like Roland said, you hoard them and then you release them because AEW can't sign everyone. Impact can't sign everyone. So you're now just basically saying you're fired. You're ruining people's dreams because you wanted to hold on to them, and then all of a sudden creative has nothing for you, pal. Like the most famous line, like, screw you, Vince.
And not to overshadow what you said, Drew Gulak is still there. He was one that left and came back and was promised.
Oh, that's right.
He was Daniel Bryan's trainer buddy for a little while, and now he's technically on SmackDown. He was one of the guys that was chasing around with Drake Maverick and those guys in the 24/7 championship clips every week. He's one of those.
Drake Maverick has pissed his pants twice on national television, got fired twice.
Yeah. And like I said, totally worth looking at. And I'm not going to call him Drake Maverick. Looking at Rockstar Spud's Twitter to see that video. Like I said, I don't know who produced it, if it was him or a friend of his or whoever. But damn, very good 4 minutes. Worth the 4 minutes. Totally worth it.
Also watch his TNA run with Broken Hardys because he gets beat by Matt Hardy's kid, and it's quite hilarious to see an established wrestler lose to. I think he was 1 or 2 years old at the time. So I know they're all going to bounce on their feet. And, like Matt Cardona pretty much tweets out every time, and all the other wrestlers. There's light at the end of the tunnel. So I know we have a couple independent wrestlers who said they listen. We support independent wrestling. We're going to try to support them. When we say we're not supporting WWE, it's not that we don't want to support the talent because we obviously have favorite wrestlers on there. It's just hard to give Vince money. That's just the hardest thing.
Look at the Xavier Woods thing about the up, down, down. Like prime example of someone that deserves, if not all, damn near all the money for that project. He gets damn near none of it. So it's a Vince thing, WWE product, which is totally not true. I mean, other than having the WWE name on it, that it couldn't be farther from the truth because people actually watch it.
Right, it's not like he uses Xavier Woods.
No.
He uses Austin Creed.
Mm-hmm.
And I never understood Twitch and all stuff. I get it. When they're wrestling for you on WWE TV, that's your IP. I get it. That's why you want to create their own names. That's why you don't have a Steiner, but yet you do a Steiner Math promo. I get that's why you want to create your own IP. But the fact that if people don't know how these contracts work, without getting too nerdy and geeky, you basically sign a contract for X amount of dollars a year, and then you get a downside guarantee basically saying, based on revenues for ticket sales, merchandise, yada, 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 this is how much you're getting. Vince wants to include up, down, down, all these other properties in their downside, which is double dipping and super unethical and shady. And if you are defending that, then you obviously should never get into business because you're a horrible piece of shit, just like Vince is. Because to take away someone's creation, like what they did with Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins when they did the toy hunt, same kind of thing. They go into depth on it in their podcast where they create these videos using their real names. They're like, we own this because your faces are in it. And they'll file copyright claims and they can win because they literally scan their faces and send them to YouTube. So if Like if we upload a clip, we've already gotten a copyright claim on one of our clips because there was a picture of Jericho in it. Like seriously, it's ridiculous. But take it off my soapbox. I'll let you start the first match so we don't go an hour random why Vince sucks.
Right, yeah, we'll be here for a while if we do that. So the first match on the main card, it was Bobby Roode against Ty Dillinger in a singles match, which was kind of a grudge match based on the fact that they were teamed up somewhat unwillingly in the Dusty Rhodes Classic. This match went 16 minutes and 28 seconds with Bobby Roode getting the win against Ty Dillinger.
How many times could they go over the top rope in this match? I thought I was watching a battle royal because I feel like it was Bobby Roode throw out Ty Dillinger, then Ty Dillinger throw out Bobby Roode, and at one point, who's the heel? Like I didn't really know who the heel was in the match. You have Ty Dillinger pulling his knee pad down to get the tiebreaker. That's a heel move. But then Bobby Roode comes up to his glorious entrance. Crowd's singing with him, but he's doing heel tactics. I'm like, so I get what you're saying. I definitely agree, but they felt like two heels fighting each other. And Emily made a great comment. Wow, Sean Spears looks like such a baby, but he's old. Like it was comical. Like he looked like the youngest old man ever in that match.
Well, my takeaway from the match was it was a decent match. I'm not going to say it was a bad match. Just like I said, a little confusing, but at one point during the match, like you said, you couldn't really tell. Like even the crowd didn't really know what to do. Like it was just awkward. That my takeaways though is that it was cool that Bobby Roode had the choir on the stage for his entrance. That was a pretty cool entrance. One of my other takes was what was going on with Ty Dillinger's hair. Was he trying to be a fucking peacock, or like did he foreshadow that he'd be on Peacock 5 years later and he should look like one? Or I don't know what happened there, but his hair was. So you imagine someone told him, "Hey, that looks good," because and not that I'm one to talk about my hairline, but like still, good lord.
Do you think this is before or after Peyton Royce
started dating? Probably before. I hope.
I think so too. But then remember he tried to dye his mohawk yellow in AEW. That awful.
That's
so,
true.
Hair's never been Ronnie's strong suit there.
Yeah, that's true. So the finish came with Roode sending Dillinger into the post and then hitting the Glorious DDT for the win. It was funny that the commentary didn't call it the Glorious DDT. It was just the DDT. It's like, no, that's what that is. Like, it was weird. I don't know if they weren't supposed to or they hadn't named it that yet or what, but it was the Glorious DDT. That's what it was.
And that's the whole shtick, the Glorious one. And another prime example, he has called me a wrestler and they stripped away everything that made him great in NXT. Like this, if you want to see Bobby Roode that killing it in WWE, watch him in his NXT run because this shows he came in with momentum from TNA, and like when we cover our TNA shows, how good he was with Beer Money, and then how good he is here is the cocky heel. Like it's very Rick Rude vibes. And I know they kind of hinted at that with him calling himself Robert Roode for a while, but it's very Rick Rude vibes. Very, I'm the best man in the room. I'm gorgeous. Look at me. I'm glorious. And like you said, they don't even call it the Glorious DT. You have to sell it because it goes with his gimmick. And I agree. The match was entertaining. It was just a weird vibe because there wasn't really a good heel face dynamic. And I think that's the only thing that took away just slightly.
Right. After that, we have the tag team match, which was the finals for the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. We had the AOP, the Authors of Pain, Akam and Razor, with Paul Ellering defeating TM61, Nick Miller, and Shane Thorne in a little over 8 minutes. This match, other than having a few high spots, didn't really do much for me. I don't know about you, Mongo, but it wasn't a terrible match. It just I don't know if it was a Styles Clash type of thing, or you knew going in who was going to win too. Like you never really had any doubt that AOP wasn't going to win that match.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like looking at the bracket, like we read out earlier, I know TM61. They showed clips of them getting like a surprise victory over Austin Aries and Roderick Strong, but honestly, looking at these pairings, I don't understand why any other team besides them went to, because I feel like that was just the wrong team to go up against AOP. Because like you said, you had TM61, who's more of a spot fest, to use the term we don't like to use. Him, like jump around, fly around. Like at one point he climbs like that cage thing, the scaffolding to jump down. And then you have the AOP who are just their bruisers. And I know, DIY and Revival are having a grudge match later, but I honestly feel like the Revival versus AOP probably would have been a banger of a match. Just because both technical wrestlers, physicality strong. And I just feel like they didn't really get a lot of time. It was just more about, oh, is Paul Ellering going to interfere? Or Paul Ellering this? And yeah, if you don't know who Paul Ellering is, he's the legendary manager of the LOD. But it just felt like they were just trying to say, hey, we want the AOP to win and look dominant, because this was their run where they were just destroying NXT for a while and then go to the main roster and disappear.
Yeah, the only real takeaways I got from this match were that, they had Paul Ellering in a cage above the ring.
Yep.
At one point, Paul Ellering does the heel move and sends a chain down into the ring, and then AOP ends up winning. They hit the last chapter and they get the win. It was cool at the end to see Triple H, William Regal, and Dustin Rhodes present the trophy to AOP. That was probably the best thing about the match, besides the fact it was over. was that they had Dustin Rhodes, and it was funny too because they had to mention on commentary, if you don't know who that is, that's Gold Dust. It's like, no, anybody that's a wrestling fan knows who that is. Trust me.
Or anyone who's watched NXT in the first tournament when they literally described who the whole Rhodes family was.
Right.
And then you have TM61 too. First of all, a terrible name because it reminds me of Pokemon. Like, remember when you used to play Pokemon and you used to get the TMs and that's how you get your move? So I looked it up out of curiosity. This is a Will-O-Wisp. If anyone plays Pokemon, that's what TM61 is in Pokemon. It's called Will-O-Wisp. It's in Pokemon Diamond. Because I'm like, wow, what a terrible name. And then Shane Thorne, it didn't go much better. Like we said earlier, he became Slapjack in Retribution. But
so I assumed that the TM was for Thorne and Miller. And I wasn't sure where the 61 came from. Like, I was like, oh, I get it now. Shane Thorne, Nick Miller. Oh, okay. TM. Like, oh, that makes sense. Maybe you're 100% right. I don't know. Weird.
No, because they became a faction later on, like the Mighty Don't Kneel or something. So I think it was the Mighty 61. I think because then they had they were a whole faction for a while, and then when they ended up when Nick Miller's contract basically expired, and they were like bye, and Shane Thorne had nothing to do with them, so he kind of floated around for a while. Because this was when I was really in NXT, and this is when they were like they're throwing tag teams at the wall to see who would stick. Because as we know, the main roster does not keep tag teams; they keep like one or two established tag teams. You have the perfect vehicle in NXT to test out tag teams. And you've had so many come through that worked in NXT that they got to the main roster and you're like, Creative has nothing for you, pal. No. You just don't want to have anything for them.
Yeah, I'm sure if you cared enough, you could find something for them to do.
Exactly. Hell, even another tournament. You know how they have King of the Ring tournament? You can't tell me they couldn't do another like whole King of the Ring style, but for tag teams, like Kings of the Ring tournament. Like, you can easily do that for a tag team, and that way you could help, even the thrown together tag teams, you could help establish, well, they won the tournament, so they have chemistry. But no, because what we're eventually going to get is, I'm surprised they haven't done a Roman Reigns and Big E. Like, I'm surprised they didn't have a tag team match on SmackDown like they always do before a fight. Like, they have to coexist at least one time before they have their match.
They have to be seen at catering together. So then after this match, the following match was DIY against the Revival, 2 out of 3 falls for the NXT tag titles. In my opinion, match of the night, not to take anything away from any of the other matches on this card. But this match was an absolute banger. As advertised, it had the most time, also at 22 minutes and 18 seconds. And again, for those who don't know, you should know, but DIY was Johnny Gargano and Tom Masso Ciampa, and then the Revival is the now known as FTR in AEW, but that was Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson, now Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, FTR in AEW. Like I said, this match was, for me, easily the best match of the night, and it's honestly not even close. I will say that the Joe Shinsuke main event was a good match too, but this match was fantastic.
No, I agree 100%. Watching this through, looking at the card, trying to think of, because I remember watching this, but I don't remember. So I was looking at like, okay, what match do I think is going to be? I'm like, I really think DIY was the match I popped for, and it was, because Johnny Wrestling, Ciampa, and then Revival, like the four of them just have such great chemistry, and this is the time that the 2 out of 3 falls make sense for the tag team titles. Mm-hmm. This makes sense because they had a clear winner. And then you had DIY beating the Revival, which was electric, because this was the rise of Johnny Gargano and Ciampa. This is before they broke up and had their, great feud. But this is showing that this was the future. This was what we were excited for. This is what the crowd was excited for. And the match was phenomenal. Like the way they worked together. Johnny Gargano, he does some of the high spot stuff, but he's technical enough that he can keep up with the Revival. Ciampa can beat the living fuck out of them and pound their chest, and hardwood, and everyone gives it right back. So if you want to see a physical, brutal match that has a lot of good uses of the near falls, a lot of good uses of spots, this was a good match. This match, when I think NXT, these are the kind of matches I think of, is this style of match where you just have 4 guys who can fucking go, and that's what this match was.
So FTR would hit the Shatter Machine on, and again, FTR, the Revival. In my notes, I wrote FTR because it was shorter. Anyway, FTR hits the Shatter Machine on Gargano to win the first fall. After this, FTR, the Revival, doing a great job of the double team heel tactics of behind the referee's back. They had a spot where the referee didn't see the tag between Gargano and Ciampa. They hit a heart attack, which is cool. If you don't know, that's Heart Foundation, Bret Hart, Jim Neidhart, one of their moves. They hit that. Ciampa finally ends up getting the hot tag, and then DIY ends up hitting the super kick knee combo on Dawson to get the second fall to even it up. Dawson at one point then uses the belt as a shield, and Gargano kicks it. That was a cool spot as well. And then shortly after that, this is the part that popped me. Was shortly after that, DIY's finisher, the knee and super kick combo, was tried by FTR. They countered that into the Shatter Machine, which was one of the coolest moments to see DIY do the Shatter Machine and the way they went about doing it. Fantastic. And then the finish comes where it's a dual tap out between both FTR, both Dawson and Wilder were in the middle of the ring, and they were almost holding hands trying to stop each other from tapping out, which was it was a very cool way to end the match. I will say that sometimes shenanigans like that take away from the match, but at this point it was really cool because at one point it looked like that Scott Dawson stopped Dash Wilder from tapping, and then at one point it was the other way around, even though Gargano and Dash Wilder were the legal men. It just seemed like at one point they both stopped each other from tapping, and they finally both tapped out at the same time. Awesome way to end the match. Fantastic match. And like I said, easily the match of the night. I don't know what Meltzer ended up giving this, but it had to be damn near the highest rating you can get. If not, he's on even more drug than I thought he was.
Yeah, I'm not sure he gave either, but I would have given that match 5 stars easily just because, like you said, normally that stuff at the end's hokey, but just like their frustration, like trying to help each other, like stay with it because they know they're going to lose their titles if they tap. They're going to lose their titles, and they know that they don't want to lose it. They didn't want to lose to these punk kids. They didn't have respect for Johnny Gargano. They didn't have respect for Ciampa, and it was just like you said, them holding hands reminded me of Three Ninjas, 4 strands of rope, boys. Like they were just like holding on for dear life. Like, let's light this fat boy up. Like it was just, everything about it was great. I can't say nothing. We always say cliche, but if you're going to watch one match from this card, this is the one you should start with, or this is the one you should watch because this match is phenomenal. Or if you've never seen anything NXT, this is a good starting point too. And that's the thing. Like 2016 NXT, this is when I marked out. This is when I would watch this over a Survivor Series, and I did. And you had 12,000 people in Toronto, where the Raptors play. So that's amazing for what was developmental. And I guarantee that, if AEW went to that Toronto arena, they could probably sell it to 12,000 too, because it's that same crowd, same atmosphere. And I bet if Raw or something went back there, they'd be lucky to get 6.
Yeah, if you have a half hour to kill one day and you're trying to figure out like what you want to do with your half hour and you're a wrestling fan, watch this match. It is season 3 episode 5 on Peacock for NXT Takeover. I love how they do that, but that's the episode, and it's right in the middle of the card. Totally worth the watch, 100%.
Now, as Tim pointed out in the group text, it is not the 2019 Toronto Takeover. That match does have some good matches, but it's the 2016 Takeover.
Right. And that's the worst part, is that I wish that they would put the dates with like the episodes too. Like you have to look at it closely, because that's what got me, like, the Finn Balor jokes. That's what got me, is that like they don't put the dates with them. They just say season 3 episode 5. And you look and you're like, oh, that has the main event. Well, sometimes they have the same main event. And guess what? They're different.
And what a fucking cock tease there, because they kept the original commercials in. They had a WWE Network spot at one point. Yep. And I'm just like, Memories make me want to go back. Like, what a tease. Like, here we are watching on shitty ass Peacock, which is, we all know, I still don't know how they haven't fixed our basic complaints. And also, if anyone here listens, knowing it's on Peacock, get rid of the fucking clips feature when you're searching.
Yeah.
Because I can't stand when I accidentally go over to the clips thing. I don't want a clip from the damn show if I want to watch the damn show.
Right. I want the show. If I'm searching for the show, I want the show.
And I shouldn't have to be exactly specific. If I type in NXT Takeover, you shouldn't be like, did you mean NXT at weekly television? No, the fuck I didn't. I meant Takeover.
Right. NXT Takeover. Did you mean The Office? No, that's not what I meant. Like,
well, I guess that's what we're watching. I guess I'll watch it.
Right. But yeah, so it's just not, I would hope it would get better, but it really hasn't. So that's another story. We could do a whole episode on that one day if we wanted to. But
that's what we should do for our tier anniversary. Just the rise and fall of Peacock. We'll make like a ESPN fucking Ocho documentary.
Shit on Peacock for an hour.
Oh, that sounds dirty. Shit on the Peacock.
Sorry, that's not what we meant, PETA. That's not what you're talking about.
People eating tasty animals, yum.
It wouldn't taste so good if they got shit all over. But anyhow, moving on to the next match, the second to last match on the card, the NXT Women's Champion Asuka defeats a returning Mickie James by submission in just over 13 minutes to retain the NXT Women's Championship. Full disclosure, this match I kind of skipped through only because I didn't have a lot of time and it didn't really interest me much. Not that I don't like Asuka and I don't like Mickie James. I just felt like it was thrown together and it was like a one-off and it really had no steam. Like now, if it was Asuka facing Trish Stratus in Toronto, it would make sense. Now, I get that Mickie James at one point was the crazy stalker lover angle with Trish Stratus or whatever. So, like, I don't know if that's what they were going for, but it just seemed awkward. Like, it was literally a one-off for Mickie James to wrestle Asuka. Don't get me wrong. Again, it was a decent match, but it just it had it almost. I know it was for the championship, but it had you knew, the same as the AOP winning the Dusty Rhodes Classic, you knew who was going to win this match. Mickie James did not have to quote Vince McMahon, Mickie James had no chance in hell to win this match going in, and you knew that. And that's, I think, what made me, ahead of time go, okay, I got to skip through this for time reasons. And that's what I did. And I talked to Mongo before we went live. I didn't miss anything. From what I know and what I saw, there wasn't much to be seen other than the fact, from what Mongo said, it just seemed confusing.
It really was, because this is during Asuka's dominant NXT run, which is another travesty how they misused her. But she came in with Mystique, and it's very eerily similar to how they brought Samoa Joe into TNA, how they had her with their NXT run. They wanted to build her up to this unbeatable force, so they wanted to bring in essentially a Hall of Fame veteran to fight her. But there was just no build, because it was more like she was like, oh, she doesn't know what I'm about. It's like, but okay, but you've been away for a few years, so most of the fans in NXT really don't know what you're about currently. And it's not that she can't wrestle. It's not that she didn't have a good run in TNA while she's gone and NWA while she was gone. It's just she came back to lose to Asuka, which was the given, because once you see a veteran come against the hot newcomer, you kind of already know what the spiel is going to be. The veteran's going to give the newcomer the rub, and it's just, you can tell they didn't really have a lot of chemistry. And I just knew it wasn't going to be that great, to be honest, when they do that awkward backstage segment. I don't know how they script this, but every time they do it, it makes me cringe. Whenever the camera's in the locker room and they're always like practicing karate against nobody in the locker room. Like, what's the stage direction? All right, Asuka, in 30 seconds, the camera goes on. Just start kicking and punching the air like you're getting prepared for this match. No one looks natural doing it. And I don't understand. Like, same thing when they watch a match on the monitor and they're always looking like this. Like, who the fuck watches TV sideways? Like, I just, some of that shit takes it out. And honestly, the promo packages just for this, you could just watch the promo package, because it literally shows how there's no story built. The match, the wrestling itself was fine, but like you said, it was thrown together. Asuka wins with the Asuka lock. It was about 13 minutes. It kind of felt like it dragged on for about 10. I think it should have been a squash because they wanted Asuka to be this dominant, future champion. It should have been a squash. Yes, Mickey's a legend, but she came back knowing her spot was there to kind of give people the rub. I don't know why they kind of went from it's going to be a squash to now Mickey's going to get a lot of offense in, but Asuka's really going to dominate. So it was just all over the place.
So, like I said, I didn't really miss much by skipping through that. And it just, Well, and the other thing is too, like when they always go backstage and they show somebody watching TV. Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm anywhere, I'm not standing watching fucking TV. The monitor doesn't need to be up here for me to stand there and watch it. Like, I can sit and go like this. Like, I can look up and watch it. Like, that, for me, I mean, I don't know about you. Do you go home and just stand there and watch TV?
No, and if I am, I'm definitely not standing with my underwear watching it, like getting ready to go
Standing
somewhere.
sideways, standing sideways in your underwear.
Like another wrestling trope. Why is everyone always in their gear backstage if they're not wrestling? Like that. Can you imagine? Like, you wear like the little short shorts, and you just have to stay backstage, and you're like, it's Milwaukee, it's 30 degrees, and I have to wear my wrestling tights backstage.
Well, Randy Orton always gets me when he wears like shorts and like a hoodie over his wrestling gear on days he doesn't wrestle too. So it's like, wait, so like I remember he was like feuding with Bray Wyatt, and like, yeah, he did some stuff in the ring, but you mean to tell me he had to have his knee pads and his tights on under his fucking shorts? Like,
I'll never understand that wrestling trope. Like, it's okay they wear normal clothes. It's okay if they wear like, I kind of like how AEW does, like when they show them backstage, they're in like sweats and a t-shirt and jeans, or
yeah,
Daniel Bryan comes out this week on Dynamite and is like, I'm wearing my tights because I'm ready to go. Like, it makes sense because he's like, I'm ready to go, but you aren't.
Yeah.
I like when they point out the obvious versus like, I'm just standing backstage. I'm Bo Dallas. I'm eating a piece of cheesecake, but look, I'm in my tights because even though I'm not being used, I still got to clean these fuckers after because I wore them all day for no reason.
I'm going to put my tights on and go to catering. Second catering reference of the night. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, there's a few matches on here like I would tell you to skip. You can easily skip this one. You won't miss anything. And again, no offense to either performer. I think they're both legendary women in the business. It just was a miss. Like sometimes you swing and miss, and it just was. Moving on to the main event for the NXT Championship, you have the champion Shinsuke Nakamura defending his championship against his challenger Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe gets the win in just over 20 minutes to become the new NXT champion. This match was, again, a close, well, I wouldn't even say close. This match was second on the card, and it wasn't, like, it was on a different level compared to the FTR DIY match. Like, this was still a good match, don't get me wrong, but it's a good thing they had the women's match in between, because it would have been like the Hell in a Cell match with Undertaker and Mankind, and then being Triple H and Kane having to follow it, it would have been like, follow that, good luck. And again, this match was a solid match, a very good match. It just wasn't to that level.
No, I agree. And they previously fought at Takeover Brooklyn, which I think was a better match between the two. That was more of when the blood feud really was there. This one kind of just felt like they just needed a good main event to kind of cap it off, and they wanted to put the title on Joe because Shinsuke is getting the call up here. So it just kind of felt like it was a rushed finish and it was a rushed match. So like you said, it was a good match. They're both great performers. That's kind of what hurt NXT a little bit, is when you knew the cops were coming, because they abruptly would end storylines or have these weird thrown together matches. They should really stick to I like the Kevin Owens formula where he went to fucking Raw with the NXT title and fought John Cena and then came back and had a ladder match and lost it to Finn. I mean, you kind of knew, but at least he was like, I'm still the fucking champ. Like, I haven't lost this shit yet. I hate when they're like, oh, I'm on Raw now, so I relinquish this title. No, you fight, defend it.
Well, they did that a little bit with Karrion Kross. Like, he came up to Raw and he still had the NXT championship, and that motherfucker had to try to handle two different gimmicks.
Right.
Like, that was the worst part. They had him come up and they had him look like an idiot with a fucking metal strainer helmet thing on Raw, and then he'd go back to NXT and he'd be the friggin' world beater with Scarlett, and it's like,
that's this card just goes to show you that NXT, created its own internal revolution. It created the indie feel. Triple H scouted the indies with William Regal. They did a great job of bringing in Ring of Honor talent, talent from Shakara, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, all these different places. And they built up a brand that was different than the main roster. And the problem is Vince didn't like it. You had Samoa Joe, who we've covered multiple times in TNA episodes, how it was dominant. And, he came to NXT and he got to continue his dominant run. He goes to the main roster. He falters. Shinsuke comes over from New Japan, who he was known for kicking the living shit out of people. Him and AJ Styles matches they had over New Japan were stuff of legends. Him and Finn Balor, stuff of legends. He comes to NXT, has a great run, falters. I just don't understand how this should have been the stepping point to really catapult them on the main roster, and it's just almost like the best way I can describe it, instead of a catapult, it was Sin Cara's trampoline. They basically got off main roster, boom, fumble over the ropes. That's exactly what that felt like to me.
You think they had a ceremony when Sin Cara handed that trampoline down to Reggie? It has to be the same trampoline, right?
It's got to be. And what could have been? Like, I feel bad every time I see NXT now with this Nickelodeon-ass colors. I just think Triple H crying in the back like, when is this fucking old man going to retire? Because I built the goddamn brand to show I could do this. Mm-hmm. He kills it. Now I'm going to start again. And by the way, I have nobody but Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and Big E left. Thank you.
Pretty much. I mean, it's comical too. Like, I watch a lot of different Twitch streamers, and one of the ones that I communicate with regularly is out of New York, and he doesn't really listen to podcasts, but I've given him, he likes wrestling and stuff. So like we were talking about it the other day, how ironic it is that 2K22 is getting ready to drop, but yet by the time the game drops, there's going to be like 7 wrestlers left. There's going to be nobody left for the game.
What's the opposite of DLC? Like, do they just remove people? Like, day one update, like, instead of getting a bunch of DLC for wrestlers, it's just going to start removing people? Like, your copy has the following people. It's going to be removed now. You're like, no, I want to play, son of a bit. Why is there 4 characters on selection? They're all 4, and they're all just different versions of Hogan.
They show Vince come up on the screen with a Thanos mask on. He snaps his fingers, and they just fucking vanish.
No, I do like the new rumored career mode that you go to NXT, you go to the main roster, get released, and then you end up in the AEW game. That's that's one of my favorite.
Yeah, that's real life, pal.
And I know these releases are just because he just knows AEW can't absorb all these people, and like we've said before, AEW is getting bloated now, but it's like there's so much talent out there, and it's like they're going to go other places. So if anything, he's being stupid because he's rebuilding the indies, he's rebuilding Impact. AEW is going. New Japan just got what the hell do you know his name was? He's called Jonah now. I think it was Bronson Reed.
Yeah.
So he's going to be wrestling for New Japan. So you have these people. They're going to establish themselves again. Vince like, damn it, why do we have him? Vince, we did. You fired him 3 years ago.
Well, and look at Ring of Honor folding. Closing their doors for a little bit. All that does is, and they released everybody. So like all that does is everybody that was under contract, i.e. Jay Lethal, people like that, where are they going to go? They either go to New Japan, they go to WWE, or they go to AEW. If they want to stay in a bigger promote, I guess Impact too. I guess technically you can see a few people pop up there too, but like, I mean, there's a lot of people out there, that'll be looking for jobs now.
I mean, the good news is I think where they're helping the indies, they're helping the indies come back, so it's kind of a nice thing because now these indies can get a headliner. Like I was saying, Militia, they brought in Fandango to headline, and 200 people doesn't sound like a lot, but at $20-$30 a head, that's a pretty decent sellout for a small little VFW hall.
I believe you can't call him Fandango. I believe you have to call him Dirty Dango. I think that's an IP that Vince would get mad if you call him Fandango.
Fine, I'm a fan of Dango.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Dango. Anyways.
But I mean, even that, like there's a really cool promotion down in Massachusetts that is going to have friggin' Eddie Kingston show up. And like that's just so cool. So like people support independent wrestling. That's one of the best things you can do. Even if you just watch YouTube clips, like these people could still have lives. Like WWE is not the end, and if anything, it's going to create another revolution because there could be another company that pops up. Because that's the thing. There's so much talent out there. There's so much name recognition, and everyone's like, "Oh, XWB guys." Well, guess what? Maybe if Vince would hoard contracts like Thanos hoarded the Infinity Stones, then he would have a talent, and that's the problem. You say you can't create stars. We just covered NXT 2016, which had a lot of star power on it. Like we said, the DIY Revival, those could have been your top 2 tag teams on your main roster. Now, you could have had DIY on Raw. You could have had the Revival on SmackDown, your top teams having great feuds. That could have been your Survivor Series rematch. You could have called back to this NXT like 5 years ago. They had a fight. Let them fight again. You could have had so much with it, but you choose not to. And then you just go around saying, well, we can't create new stars. So that's why we bring back Brock Lesnar. No. How about instead of bringing back nostalgia acts like The Rock, who's rumored to come back, or all these other people, why not give people a fucking chance? Because that's the thing. Stop letting Goldberg come in and steal someone's spot. Stop letting John Cena come in and steal someone's spot. And then don't sit out in the ring, Stephanie, and lie to us and say you're going to listen to the fans and make things better 3 years ago, and then you do the exact fucking opposite of what you're saying.
Well, I will give John Cena credit. When he came back, he actually came back and competed. He didn't show up for like one episode of SmackDown and then go to the pay-per-view. I will give him credit for that. He was there for, a month and a half or whatever it was, and he was there. Like that's what he did. But yeah, it just goes to show you that, a lot of the talent that AEW has or has absorbed from the ex WWE people, like Miro. I actually retweeted something that Miro had said regarding Punk and Bryan and himself, and he literally at the end of the tweet said, Vince McMahon didn't make me, God did. And that's him not even in character. I know he has the Redeemer thing and whatever, but like it just goes to show you that they are told essentially that Vince McMahon has made you. Like, we've made you. And it's like, no, you haven't. You might have made the gimmick or whatever, but a lot of these people have come from the Indies. They've come from Ring of Honor. They've came from Impact. They've New Japan. And they already know how to wrestle. You didn't make a fucking thing. You just slapped a new sticker on them, called them NXT 2.0, and that was their fucking, like, that's all you did. That's literally all you did. You put lipstick on a fucking pig, essentially, and made it your own. That's it.
Yeah, and that's, Matt Hardy has that famous quote of when he came in and was like, I came into WrestleMania and I didn't know if I should do the delete symbol because I knew Vince wouldn't understand it, but the crowd was popping. And then, Monday night I go to Vince, like, I really think we need to keep the broken gimmick. He goes, what's the broken gimmick? But you had Michael Cole on WrestleMania going, things are about to get broken. So they clearly knew it. But because he didn't understand it, he was like, no, I want you to be the Hardy Boys. So he's like, okay, but I'm 40, so being the Hardy Boys is kind of no.
Right, yeah, and that's the other thing. That's where Vince screws up too. Is that Tony Khan's not afraid to let somebody like Eddie Kingston or whoever go do an independent show or go do a show here or whatever, because all that does is build up a rapport with these independent promotions. Because what if you're in the area and you need talent? What if you have a situation where you have a Jericho cruise and half your talent is on the cruise, the other half is here, and you need people? You can say, hey, remember when we let Eddie Kingston come here? Or remember when we let this person, can we borrow a few of your guys? Like, that's all it does is help the wrestling business as a whole. And Vince is like, no, these are our guys. It's like, yeah, but you can still work with other companies, kind of we scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of thing. And it benefits everybody.
It does. You look at Dark and Dark Elevation, and you have these people from all of these independent companies all around the country getting exposure. Some of them are getting signed. Daniel Garcia, who was probably one of the best independent wrestlers of the past couple of years, got signed with AEW. Warhorse, who's been one of the most over gimmicks, has gotten a shot against Cody and a shot on Dark. So they're getting exposure. I'm sure Danhausen eventually will get a shot, even if he's not a full-time wrestler. He doesn't have to wrestle to be good. He's comedy like Orange Cassidy, so he could still pull it off. But there's spots, and they understand that, like you said, they actually let him be independent contractors. Mm-hmm. Like, can you imagine if your job is like, okay, hey Roland, I know you're coming here to do your job, but you're actually independent contractor. You have to take care of your own taxes, your own medical, your own this, and this. And you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go, work as a side hustle in this other company. They want me to work, Saturday nights for X amount of money, so I need to support my family. They're like, no, you're an independent contractor, but you're exclusive with us. You'd be like, see ya.
Yeah, it's like telling them they can't do their own thing on Twitter under their own fucking name. It's like, no, it's my name. I'm pretty fucking sure I can. Like, I'm not trying to use Xavier Woods as my name. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and getting back on topic, the NXT show, if I had to rate it, I would give it a 7 just because of how good that Revival DIY match was. I don't know about you, Mongo, but I'd say it's a 7 in my book.
Yeah, I definitely think I'll give it the old Dustin Rhodes there. We'll give it a 7 as well to steal your thunder.
Well, I feel like we give too many Sean Waltmans out. So, honestly, though, if you take that Revival DIY match off the card, this card would have just been mediocre. And that's there's a lot of good talent on this card rather. but take away that 2 out of 3 falls match, and this card just becomes okay. It becomes another mediocre WWE NXT show. Having that on there makes this card an absolute banger, and that's exactly what it was.
No, I agree completely.
And moving on to our Full Gear recap from last week, we made our predictions, and we all predicted. Some of the fans also predicted. We had a poll, different. You could select who was going to win and stuff like that. So we had some. Well, we ended up with like 24 entries or something like that altogether, not counting us.
I think 30 before the pay-per-view started. So
yeah, so we had a great turnout on the voting of who you thought was going to win and whatnot. So going over Full Gear 2021, which happened this past Saturday, 1 week ago, in the dark match, all three of us, both Mongo and I and Tim, had Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa defeating Jamie Hayter and Nyla Rose, which is what happened. Again, it was on the pre-show. And I saw a lot of different highlights from the card. I didn't watch it live. There are some full matches I were able to see. And again, I'm not going to say where I saw them, but they were not technically on the up and up, so they don't exist anymore. I was able to find some of them though, and it worked out well, as best as it could have. But I don't know, Mongo, did you end up watching that match?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean, it was the typical, pre-show where, they wrestled, for about 12 minutes or so, and it was more just kind of the crowds coming in, keep the crowd hot. It was a decent match. I think Thunder Rosa had more of the momentum in the match, but it really seemed like they were trying to showcase Rosa and Hayter the most because Nyla didn't really do much, and Shida kind of just came in for certain spots. But it wasn't a terrible match, but I think they've had better pre-shows before.
All right, well, moving on to the beginning of the main card for Full Gear 2021, we have a grudge match of MJF against Darby Allin. The match lasted just over 22 minutes, and MJF actually defeats Darby Allin with a headlock takeover.
Well, let's see what we said. If I can cue it up.
But I'll just say I think Sting might play a pivotal role in this match, and I'm going to go with MJF.
Yeah, it's going to be 3 for MJF. As much as Darby is one of those guys that can lose 8 out of 10 matches and still be popular and still be thought as a contender.
I think we hit mine got cut off, but I also said MJF, so I think we hit the nail on the head on that one.
Yeah, we definitely were 1 for 1, actually 2 for 2 at this point if you count the pre-show. And again, this match ended, but with headlock takeover, with the use of the Dynamite Diamond Ring. I know that this was one of the matches I was able to see the whole match, and this match was really good. I will say that I don't think they could have picked a better match to start the show. This match was a fantastic match from start to finish.
I agree, and as JR said, the 4 pillows really shined in this particular match. But yeah, no, it was nice to see the 2 young AEW stars have a banger of a match. I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. You forget, because MJF doesn't wrestle a whole lot, how good he is. And definitely, if go out, rewatch this match, watch clips of it, because they both put on a clinic.
Excalibur had a good line from Dynamite this past week. He's like, well, you only wrestle 3 times a year. He's talking about MJF. But yeah, you're definitely right there. So moving on to the next match on the card, you have the Lucha Brothers with Alex Abrahantes as your AEW Tag Team Champions, defending against the AAA Tag Team Champions of FTR, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler with Tully Blanchard. The Lucha Brothers ended up winning this match by pinfall. This is one of the matches I wish I could see more of. I just saw some clips on it, so I'll have to defer to Mongo because I know he watched the whole show. I assume this match was an absolute banger.
Percent of the votes. I think I'm going with the fans. I don't think it's time for the Lucha Bros to drop the titles yet. I think it's good that FTR, getting a title match, but Lucha Brothers are too hot right now and they're too over. I think they need to keep these straps.
Yeah, I agree. This one, I can see this one going either way, but if I, with a gun to my head, I'm going to go with the Lucha Bros just because they finally got the belts. They finally got their push, and I don't think it's time to give it up yet.
Walk away with the AEW titles here. I feel like the Lucha Brothers not only have to win, but will win.
Yeah,
So we're starting off the show pretty well here.
I think so. And like you said, it was a good match. I mean, there was a scary spot where Dax got knocked out.
Yeah.
I didn't know until after because it wasn't as obvious, and you knew something was weird because the ending was it was a weird ending. Basically, Cash. It's hard to say Cash and Dax without like tongue tying yourself.
Yeah.
So Cash puts on like a luchador mask and like rolls in the ring and eats the pin, and then he's screaming at the ref like, "I wasn't legal, I wasn't legal," and then Dax is laying outside the ring. Come to find out it's because he was injured. So it was kind of a confusing ending, but taking that away, the whole match itself, it was as good as you thought. Tim said it was probably going to be the match of the night. I don't think it was the match of the night. I think so far MJF and Darby Allin had probably one of the better matches, but it was definitely a good match, and definitely wanted to at least watch highlights of it because the Lucha Brothers are great, and you already know how our love for FTR is on this show.
Yeah, well said. There's not much more that you can add to that. I think these are two. That's one thing I will say is that the AEW tag team division, unlike WWE, has some really solid teams. I mean, you go back to, the main event of this show was one of the better tag teams they had in the past couple of years of Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. So they know, when to, break teams up correctly, unlike Vince in WWE when they, break teams up and they just do it for no reason. And then you end up with one person that's a star. So AEW is doing everything right with the tag team division, in my opinion. Moving on to the next match, you have the finals in the AEW World Championship Elimination Tournament final. I said final twice because that's what I read. But anyways, you have the finals of the championship tournament. Daniel Bryan against Miro. And again, if you remember right, this would have been Jon Moxley, I believe. Moxley would have had to beat Orange Cassidy, but I think he probably would have. So going into this, I believe that all three of us had Bryan Danielson. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll see what the clip says here in a minute. But Bryan Danielson does get the win over Miro by technical submission, and he is now the number one contender for the championship.
Let's take a listen to find out. All week, because I don't know. I think this one could go either way. I think I'm going to say Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Daniel Bryanson here.
I think I got to go with Bryan Danielson, just because I just don't think it's time yet. But
I had to include Tim using my little flub from last week of twisting my words. As everybody knows, my battle against English language is legendary, and I called him Daniel Bryanson. So Tim, not missing a beat, decided to call that. So yeah, I think we all called it pretty well. All of us calling. GC. Now I'm afraid to say it, Bryan Danielson. I think so. I think we did a good job, and that match was excellent. And it's everything you want. And you made a good point last week saying how it's hard because Miro just lost to Sammy, but I think they did it in such a way where he had to pull everything out to beat Miro. So they did a good job protecting Miro in this match.
Well, and it would have been interesting to see had Moxley been the person he faced. I could see Moxley actually being the one to defeat Bryan Danielson to end his reign as undefeated in AEW had it been him. But since they had to do the audible, Jon Moxley went to rehab to get some help for, some demons he was battling, which hopefully that's going well. But it would have been interesting to see had it been Moxley and Bryan to see who would have won that match.
I agree. Side note, what a cool heel turn he just had on Dynamite. Like, what a great way just to subtly turn him heel. He comes out and he's like, oh, he's coming out to congratulate him. And it's going to be face versus face. It's going to be a respect match. And all of a sudden he starts taking little shots like, oh, you aren't ready, are you, you little bitch, basically. And, oh, you have the Dark Order? I'm going to take each one of you out in your home fucking town. Starting with, I'm going to take Evil Luna out. Next week, Chicago. Colt, I'm coming after you. Like, it was a great way to get the heel character established. So, because you can't make Hangman a heel right now. He's too white hot. He's too much of a babyface. And I don't know when that match is going to happen, but I like that he's going to run through the Dark Order first. So I think it helps build that story.
it would seem like they're building that up for a match well down the road. The way they're doing it, which is good. I mean, you honestly, if you're AEW, you don't want to give this match away for free. You don't. This is a match that people will pay to see, and I don't know if they're going to draw it out until the next pay-per-view. I'm not sure what their plans are, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they did. It really wouldn't. Moving on to the next match, you have the Super Click of Adam Cole and the Young Bucks with Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa against the team of Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus with Christian Cage. Christian Cage and Jurassic Express actually win this match over the Super Click in a Falls Count Anywhere match in just over 22 and a half minutes.
Let's see what we said.
Yeah, you can't. There's no possible way having them lose this match makes sense. No matter what you say, there's no. You can have them go over cheesily, win by chicken shit heel method if you have to or whatever. But Adam Cole is red hot coming in from NXT, and Bucks have been actually doing a lot of losing on their end lately. So I feel like they could use a win here, and I think Super Click's gonna go over.
No, I think you're right too. I'm saying Super Click's going over. It just makes more sense booking wise. Like you said, Adam Cole's red hot. You can't keep having the Bucks eat the pin. Not sure where Tim's went, but he also went with Super Click. So I'm not sure where his clip went. Again, this is normally what Tim does. He does the trimming of the audio. So
yeah, we had to scramble. I actually remember sending Mongo a text like 7:00 tonight. I was like, hey, we don't have those clips. So Mongo did what he could to get the clips together. Yeah, this is one that I don't understand. I mean, I get knowing what happened in the main event. I guess it makes sense to have and the promo they had on Dynamite the following week. I guess it makes sense to have the whole faction lose, I guess. But to me, it made no sense. Other than making Jungle Boy look more of a star, which he already is, you don't need to push him. It just seemed like an odd decision to me. It really did.
Yeah, I think in all honesty, this was just a way to get all of them on the pay-per-view. Like this was they've been feuding, so let's put them on the pay-per-view. So this one kind of felt, this and the Inner Circle match kind of felt like it didn't really need to be on the pay-per-view, if you want my honest opinion. Tony does a good job booking the card, but I feel like this was a fan service. It was a fun match, but it's not a match where you're like, oh my god, you have to see it. There was Gaga shenanigans. There were some pretty gross spots too with thumbtacks. At one point, Adam Cole and the Young Bucks pull their knee up with thumbtacks sticking their knee, and they do the BTE trigger, like kneeing him in the face. Jungle Boy getting a mouthful of tacks, which I'm sorry, if I was a wrestler, the one thing you're not putting thumbtacks in my damn mouth. Like I'm good. Like all it's gonna take is my ass swelling going to the hospital for like a perforated fucking like throat. Like, oh, my esophagus is leaking. Cool. Like
yeah, like if I'm wrestling, I draw the line of putting anything in my mouth. Like I'm good. Like I'm not. You're not putting your hand in my mouth. You're not putting thumbtacks in my mouth. No. Like there's no need of that. I totally 100% agree.
Roll just my fingers off.
I never understood, like, even going back to like Mankind using the Mandible Claw, like bite him. I mean, I get it. Like,
and side note, when I dress up as Mankind on the cruise, I'm not putting my fucking hand in your mouth, people. The amount of people on the cruise who asked me to give them the Mandible Claw, the real way. No, I'm not putting my hand. First of all, we're still in the goddamn pandemic. Second of all, gross. Third of all, I'm not putting my hand in your damn mouth.
I'm not getting my sock all fucking wet. Like I'm not putting it in your mouth.
Like, shout out to your tattoo artist Jay. Like he was okay with me like pantomiming it because he didn't want it in the mouth either. But yeah, I'm fine with doing that. But like last year in the 2020, someone was like, "Oh, do a picture, pretend to give me a sock," and he freaking came up, bit my hand. I'm like, "Yep, this is your sock now. I'm good."
Yeah, bye.
So yeah, no.
And that's how COVID started.
Probably this dude was from Australia, was drunk the entire cruise. Who know? You got some gross sock that I got from the Dollar Tree and drew a Sharpie on. But again, I am not putting my hand in your damn mouth. Just like I'm sure in real life, Britt Baker ain't putting her hand in your damn mouth either. So just stop being weird, people.
Yeah, you imagine like walking up to Britt Baker at a signing and be like, "Hey, can you give me the lockjaw?" She'd be like, "No."
She'd probably like, "There's the door, you son of a bitch."
No. All right. So now that we have that nasty hand and mouth phobia taken care of, moving on. It's funny that for me, both of these matches that I got wrong, spoiler, are right next to each other on this show. This match was, which I anticipate. I saw some highlights of this, but I didn't get to see it. I anticipate this being a very good match too. Cody Rhodes and Pac with Arn Anderson defeated Malachi Black and Andre El Idolo with Jose the assistant by pinfall in just under 17 minutes. Like I said, I anticipate this being a very good match. I still don't understand, and I think a lot of people are going to say that, Cody Rhodes books himself to win. He didn't need to win this match, in my opinion. So it's interesting to see the way they went.
I'm hoping, so I'm going to go with my gut and shut up like Roland usually says. I'm saying Andrade and Malachi.
I'm going to disagree. I think I'm going to go with Cody and Pac here. I think they need a win more.
I don't think would help that. So I think that Andrade and Malachi Black go over. Well, we know who won this pay-per-view.
Yeah, clearly Tim.
Yeah. That's why he didn't want to be here. He didn't want to have to about him
he's just
beating
like, I'm taking the night off, guys. Taking a high note.
I earned it. You guys can't talk shit about me about winning it. Like, I might hear it later, but it's not happening.
No, it was an okay match. It's just the problem with these thrown together tag teams. First of all, Pac is just not good in a tag team with anyone. I know Death Triangle and everything. Him and Cody clearly didn't have any chemistry, even storyline wise. Didn't have any chemistry really. They were trading on who's going to be the legal man at some point. The shenanigans of the not cooperating, like I joked about earlier when we were talking about NXT. The can they coexist? They couldn't. Malachi and Andrade kind of just seemed like Malachi was there to fight Cody. Andrade was there to kind of eat the pin from Pac. Pac hit a cool black arrow, but it sucks that Andrade had to eat the pin. Honestly, I think the wrong people went over. I know why they did it, because they obviously want to keep the mystique of Malachi going, but I think you could have even just had the match end in disqualification to protect everyone, but I think the wrong person went over personally.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not just saying that because I got it wrong. I'm saying that honestly, all this does is fuel the people that are, Cody Rhodes haters are like, oh, Cody books himself to win. Well, he kind of did. And in all honesty, it's one of those things where he probably shouldn't have. Like you said, you could have very easily had Malachi and Andrade go over, or if you didn't want to book a win, you wanted to draw it out, make it be a DQ or whatever. But having Cody and Pac win this match is fucking stupid, in my opinion. It's just dumb.
Yeah, it's definitely not a booking decision I agree with. In all honesty, that match, I like Malachi, I like Andrade. I was more watching it for them than watching it for the story. I don't personally agree with the Cody hate. I think Cody's a good wrestler, and I think he does book himself 50-50 and fairly. But I can understand, like what you just said, because it's that recency bias. And it's like he'll lose for a while, and then he comes back white hot and wins. So the recency bias is you see him win again, and you're like, oh, this fucking guy. So like I definitely get it. And now he's teasing the will I turn heel? Well, I won't turn. It's like, just turn heel. Like we saw enough of that with John Cena, and that's where the fans are getting annoyed. It's the will or won't I turn heel? Just fucking turn heel. Either you do or you don't. I hate this in between shit. It doesn't work.
All right, so here's how I would have booked it. Again, I don't work for AEW. I wish I did, but I don't. Here's how I would have booked it. Cody and Pac lose. Cody then says, you know what? Pac wasn't my real partner. I need a partner. I need my brother. Dustin and I will take on Malachi and Andrade. They lose that match, and then Cody turns on Dustin. That's how you do a fucking heel turn, and that's how you make this go longer, and then you have Cody finally just say, fuck it, and just turn and lay out Dustin, and then the fans go, holy shit, we got it finally.
And then
just throwing it out there.
Then you could double nothing Cody versus Dustin too.
And that would be the retirement match.
And Dustin could put his career on the line, and if I don't beat you, Cody, I'll leave.
Yep.
And then Cody cheats to win, and that's how Dustin leaves. Dustin would gladly be like, I'll take the pin.
Yeah, well, and at this point, he's, in all honesty, he doesn't need to be wrestling anymore. He has his school. He still wrestles from time to time. he can still be a valuable asset to AEW, not in the ring. And that's one of the things, and I'm going to go on my soapbox here for just one more minute. That's one of the things that drives me absolutely apeshit about seeing Billy Gunn in any kind of fucking match in 2021. In a singles match, mind you. We found out back in 1998 that Billy Gunn cannot be a singles wrestler. We've known this for over 20 years, and they decided to put him in a singles match with here. And again, I'm going to get some hate probably for this, but I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but for some reason, his two kids act like gay lovers more than brothers. Like when they're like shirtless out back with each other, like hanging on each other, like it's like Billy and Chuck 2.0 with his two kids. With Colton and Austin.
You want to know what their nicknames were on the Jericho Cruise?
There we go.
The Ass Boys.
Boom. See, look at that. Boom.
To prove that some people obviously don't know more than 3-syllable words, I almost got a nepotism chant going when they were in the ring, but everyone looks at me like, what the fuck does nepotism mean?
That's another hot take that I had with a buddy of mine, the Twitch streamer. I was like, am I the only one that like makes it seem like, Austin and Colton are like Billy and Chuck 2.0? Like they're like always shirtless, leaning on each other, like, and it's weird to see two brothers interact. Like you don't see Cody and Dustin just like slobbering all over each other and like leaning on each other. It's weird. It's fucking weird. I don't care what anybody says. It's weird.
No, I agree. I was thinking that too when I full disclosure, I haven't got a chance to watch Rampage yet. But when they were like, "Oh, Darby's gonna wrestle Billy Gunn on Rampage," I'm like, "Why?" That was my first.
I like how Billy did his little thing, and Darby was like, "Oh, fuck it, all right." Like even Darby was like,
Colton or Austin, which one was like, I like turtles. Like I like how he Darby was like trying not to break character and laugh. But, I get it. Again, he's another, but he's someone that he'd be better in the producer agent role. You mentioned Dustin earlier. He's been like the teaching promo classes. Like the reason why Britt Baker, his promos have been on fire the past year is because she's been working with Tony Schiavone and Dustin Rhodes. Because he every day, like there's clips on YouTube of him working with the women in the ring, working on some of their matches, the storytelling in the ring, and the promos. So he's using his mind for everything, and that's like you said. I don't want to see Billy Gunn wrestle. Like you said, we saw him wrestle in 1998. He's a tag team wrestler. He's always been a tag team wrestler. He's like me. He's asthmatic. You don't need to see someone like that try to carry a match because it's probably not good for his health. He's a big boy, so he has a lot more to carry on than I do.
And he's 60. Like he doesn't need to be in the ring anymore. I actually don't know if he's 60 or not, but he's
definitely in his 50s. He has to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna look it up right now just because. But like. It's just in 2021 there. If you want to use him to help get his kids over, that's cool. That's fine with me. I'm cool with that. Like if that's your end game.
Yeah, but
he's 58 by the way. So I overshot it by a couple years, but still, that's one of the things that it drives me nuts. All of a sudden he just like he has this weird spot where he hits Big Show with a chair, and then you don't see him for like 3 months, and then he shows up and he taunts Darby, and it's like, why? Like you said, why? Like it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, almost kind of like I like Daniel Garcia, but he doesn't need 2.0. 2.0 can be doing their own thing. So sometimes it's just like someone made a joke, and before we get to the Britt Baker match, I'll just say this quickly. Someone made a joke that's like going to AEW is kind of like walking to a high school cafeteria. It's just clicks everywhere. It's so true. It's like everyone's in a faction, which is fine. It works for them, but it's like, damn, everyone has to have like that best friend that's always with them in AEW. Yep. And like, I get it because you have so many people you want to get on TV time, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense in the storyline. Like, it would have been one thing if, Colton Gunn was like, listen, I'm the oldest brother. I've been wrestling my ass off on Dark Darby. Who the hell are you? How come you're always on TV? I have a winning streak. How come I'm not on TV? And then they fight on Rampage and you have Billy in the corner. Not Billy. One of your kids can wrestle and you can be in their corner. That's fine. You can squash one of the kids. You don't have to squash Billy.
Or what if you have Billy and one of his kids against Darby and Sting? Yeah. Like, hello. Like, there's ways to do it besides having 58-year-old Billy Gunn go in there and wrestle. Granted, he's still in great shape and he can still go. But again, he's not a singles wrestler. He's never been. It's not like you're taking someone, a noted singles wrestler, and trying to wrestle him. You're taking someone who failed as a singles wrestler and making him wrestle a singles match against Darby Allin. It's like,
it's not that he's not talented. It's just like we said, he's better in tag teams. Some people are better in tag teams. Some people are better in singles. That's just the nature of the beast.
Look at Marty Jannetty.
I don't want to.
I'm just saying he's a prime example of someone who should have been in a tag team. He did pretty well. Singles wrestler, no, not really.
And
But anyway,
he killed the dude.
Yeah, well, supposedly, and then at one point he was also supposedly having sex with his daughter too. Some weird stuff. Marty Jannetty. Weird stuff. Anyhow, moving on, getting back again on topic. We don't have Tim here to corral us and keep us on topic. Getting back on topic, the next match had the AEW Women's World Champion Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, with Rebel and Jamie Hayter defeating Ty Conti by pinfall in just over 15 minutes, closer to 15 and a half, 15 minutes and 24 seconds. I imagine this match was almost like a coming out party for Ty Conti. And they kind of proved my point the following week on Dynamite, saying that she was going to learn from this and that, so it served a purpose. It furthered her as a believable character in the women's division. And you knew going in, as I think all three of us did, they weren't going to take the title off Britt Baker right away. She wasn't the one to do it. And let's see what we said.
% Britt Baker, but now one person has voted for Tay Conti. So it's 95.8% Britt Baker. And someone guess who has the parlay here. 4% for Tay Conti. I'm sorry for that to that one person, but there's no way that if someone's taking the belt off Britt, it's not Tay Conti as much as I love her, or Ty Conti, however you say your name.
Yeah, I agree. I think DMD is going to stand for Dentist Maintains the Belt.
Nice. The belt.
The belt.
Yeah, it's another clean sweep across the board for all three of us. Again, as much as.
Side note: that one person was my fiance Emily, but she made a good point. She goes, "I just think she was going to lose it because that way she could be the first two-time champion or two-time women's champion." So she had a valid reason. But before I get in trouble, I didn't know that was you when I first said that on air. Now that I do, I'm still not saying it was the opinion I personally would have gone with, but that's why I kept the clip in there. I'm like, oh, boy, ironic.
Mongo's burying the one person, then he finds out it's the person he has to go to bed with, and he's like, oh shit. Like, damn, I shouldn't have buried that one. He's like,
the couch isn't even comfy. I mean, that's. But yeah, it was, in seriousness, it was a decent match. Tay Conti did a lot better than I thought she would have. Excuse me. I know when she was in NXT, she was very green, so I didn't know much about her. But this past year and a half, she's been there. She's really busted her ass and done really well. I think she's got a lot of potential to really keep it up, and maybe one day she can get like the TBS title and then help elevate her. But I think that TBS title is the best thing because then they can really see who can carry a belt, who can go against whoever the champion is. But Roland, you said it best. I think it's going to be Statlander who takes it off her eventually, like you said last week.
Yeah, I don't know who else in the women's division right now makes sense for Tay. I mean, the only other person I could see potentially doing it is Thunder Rosa just because of their history, but that's about it. I can't see anybody else unless they bring somebody in that Vince decides to get rid of. But moving on to what would have been my most anticipated match of the night. And again, this is a match that was kind of thrown together kind of last minute, but it also had a lot of storyline from back in the day, the history between the two. CM Punk against Eddie Kingston. The match went exactly 11 minutes, and CM Punk stays undefeated in AEW. Let's see what we predicted from last week.
I'm going to start with Roland, just put him on the spot because I don't know.
Phil Brooks.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's time.
So that was where I was leaning was. I think Eddie Kingston picks up the win, but it's not a clean win. So I'm gonna start with Roland. I should have stuck with Roland's prediction. Tim's cut off again. People, I'm not the audio person.
You heard him say he agreed with me though, so we know where he was going.
Choose CM Punk, obviously. I chose Eddie because I overthink myself, overthought it. The match was fucking fantastic. It was brutal ever since, and I loved that CM Punk basically became John Cena from 2011 in this match. And he read the room and he understood that. So Eddie Kingston comes out and he's doing everything he can to get heel heat, and he's getting fucking cheered. CM Punk comes out, he's getting cheered. And as soon as he gets in the ring, the crowd's instantly behind Eddie, and CM Punk realizes that. So at one point, he does want to see his moves, and he puts his hands up like this, and he smirks to the fucking crowd like he's going to, "You can't see me," with blood coming down his face. And then he winks to the fucking crowd. So, like, the fact that he went, "Oh, you guys think I'm like John Cena? Now I'll fucking be like John Cena." So I like that they had the, CM Punk like heel for a night, and he read the room. Eddie wrestled hurt, and you couldn't tell. They were beating the living fuck out of each other. It was probably one of Punk's best matches he's had since he's come back. And this really goes to show that if you're not an Eddie Kingston fan, you don't really know wrestling, because this shows why he belongs in AEW, why he belongs. Not only is he great on the mic, like the other day when he like, "Fuck it, I'm going to catering." Number 3, by the way. When he was, and you had CM Punk who, he got the win, but he had to struggle to get the win.
Yeah, it was to me too. Like I didn't realize they had that history either, and like I said, I wish they could have drawn it out a little bit longer. But to me, it didn't make any sense for it to be thrown together so quickly to have Punk lose. Like, to me, it would have had to have been more of a slow burn for Punk to lose. And I thought that you and I tied, but we didn't. I actually came in second.
I outsmarted myself because I thought it was going to be one of those things where Eddie Kingston was just going to go psycho and get disqualified, just to kind of keep the feud going. But now knowing how hurt he was, like his shoulders are all messed up, that it was more of, okay, but he still put on a banger of a match. And I should have gone with my gut knowing that CM Punk was going to win. But overall, it was a great match. I mean, that's why I like what AEW. It's not as predictable as the other company. But then sometimes because it's not predictable, you tend to outsmart yourself. So that's where my problem is a lot of these matches could have really gone the other way and still made sense.
Yeah, and a lot of them should have.
Either way, I'm still losing, so I can't make excuses.
And a lot of them should have. Like it honestly, if you look back at the 2 that I got wrong, in all honesty, it makes no sense for the Super Click to lose, and it makes no sense for Malachi and Andrade to lose. Like in rational thinking, like I'm not saying that I should be looking for them. I'm just saying, like, looking at the broad picture, like you said, they could go either way. And in your head, you're like you said, sometimes you outthink what you rationally should know. So, in this next match, I don't think anybody doubted the way this is going to go. You have, to quote Dan Lambert, you have the inner circle jerk of Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, Santana, and Ortiz defeating the Men of the Year, Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, with American Top Team, Junior Dos Santos, Andre Arlovsky, and that fat-faced dipshit Dan Lambert, quote Chris Jericho, in a Minneapolis street fight in just under 20 minutes. The Inner Circle, again, get the win here. Let's see what we said.
EW's like Team Canada versus 3 Live Crew, like it can be done with anytime now. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to agree with the fans. 83% said Inner Circle, 16% said Men of the Year. I'm going with the fans as well. Inner Circle's taking the win because it doesn't make sense for them to lose.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to agree with the fans and say the Inner Circle takes the win here.
Yeah, inner circle jerk for the win.
I had to keep that in there because I knew that Roland would get a pop out of that. But yeah, this was a really good Minneapolis street fight. If you didn't get a chance to see it, there was a lot of cool homages to Minneapolis, including a giant print symbol that Jericho brought out and just started beating on them with. At one point, there was a toaster that Jake Hager was hitting people with, and I'm pretty sure the toaster got more over than anyone on the America's Top Team. It turned out to be a better match than I thought it would. I think that Jericho's tributes to Eddie were really emotional because they were in Minneapolis, which was the site of Eddie's passing, 16 years ago. So there was a lot of tributes to Eddie Guerrero at the show. You had Jericho getting the win, looking up, doing the Viva La Raza and getting the win with a frog splash. But overall, it was just a fun match. It was full of a lot of shenanigans, but I really enjoyed it. And again, I really liked when he pulled out the Prince symbol. That was fucking hilarious, and he just started beating him down with it. And then the toaster. And then I will give the big dude, Arlovsky, whatever you say his name, for doing a moonsault or on Top Team. That was pretty impressive. It was just a match that was just kind of there, but it was fun. I mean, if you watch highlights, yeah, I wouldn't watch the whole thing, but at least watch highlights because it was kind of like Jericho's other street fights. It was comedy.
Well, and like you said, it was cool to see the Chris Jericho paying homage to Eddie Guerrero at the end of it to win the match. So that was pretty neat too. And yeah, this is one of the ones I saw some highlights from, and I don't feel like I missed anything. Put it that way.
No, I mean, like I said, the Eddie Guerrero highlights, and then just the Prince symbol and the toaster is pretty much the best parts of it. And then, Dan Lambert's chicken shit heelness, which it's funny because now he's on the Jericho Cruise for the fourth one. So I'm kind of glad I'm not going to that one. So I'm kind of curious if they're going to continue the storyline, but please no. And last side note before we go on last match, Ethan Page, please have a solo run. You and Scorpio don't need to be a tag team anymore. Be on your solo runs. You guys are not good together. You're better as singles wrestlers.
Yeah, I think that it's one of the, like you said, one of the situations where you throw people together and you see how it goes. And I don't understand why Scorpio Sky needs to be in a tag team. Like, he comes from SoCal Uncensored. He has a little bit of a singles run. Now he's back in another tag team. Like, let these guys go. Like, let them be the performers they can be. We know Scorpio Sky has a very high motor. Like, you could easily let him be a believable contender for the TNT Championship, and it wouldn't be anything different. So
he won Sonic's ring that one time, remember?
yeah, that's great. He got the giant gold Cheerio. And that, they were trolling Vince with the brass ring thing. They had, we've discussed that in nauseum that that's where they went with that. But yeah, I agree. Those two don't really need to be together. Should be interesting to see where they go from here. And you knew kind of going in that it made no sense for your American Top Team to win this match. I mean, it didn't. So
no, I agree.
Moving on to the main event of the night, you have the AEW World Championship, the champion Kenny Omega with Don Callis defending the title against the number one contender Adam Hangman Page. And in just over 25 minutes, we have a new AEW champion, a 2-year slow burn for the title. Him and Kenny being tag team partners together, being champions, and then his falling out with them. And then this is long-term storytelling at its best, and something that Vince McMahon used to be pretty good at. I don't think he would go to this level, clearly, but awesome way to end the story for this time. I assume there'll be more down the road, but an awesome way to end this chapter of the story. And let's see what we all said last week.
Long-term stories AEW has told. So I think it's Hangman because Kenny's been injured. There's rumors he needs to take time off and heal up. He's had a hell of a summer. Why not drop it to one of your real-life friends? Let Hangman take it. He's white hot right now. And
you make a lot of good points and a lot of logical points, but I'm going to go with my gut, and I just have a feeling that Kenny Omega is going to retain, and I think his run's going to continue.
Oh, cowboy shit. It has to be Hangman. If Hangman doesn't take the title off Kenny Omega at this point, who's going to? We tied. Tim and I tied. Yes.
See, Tim overthought the same thing. And, and I unfortunately was writing my prediction. Kenny Omega's actually had to drop out of next month's AAA pay-per-view because the dude has got a torn labrum, hernias, like wrestling with vertigo. And I don't know, I personally never struggled with vertigo. My grandfather had vertigo, and he said the best way to describe it is like being on the Gravitron at the fair constantly. And that's basically a ride that just spins you in circles and pins you to the wall. I couldn't imagine trying to wrestle while being dizzy, having a torn shoulder and a hernia, and still carrying the AEW title for over a year, the Impact title for 6+ months, and the AAA title for almost a year. Like, he had a great summer, and like I said, he got to drop it. Like we both said, the cowboy shit. 2-year long-term storyline. It hit its mark. The crowd's happy. They got what they wanted. He got his redemption angle from the first All Out where he lost to Jericho. He came this close to winning, to finally winning it. This is what wrestling was. That was a fantastic main event. Probably one of the best matches I've seen. He hits Kenny with a one-winged angel at one point, and you think he's going to get it with that move. And then Kenny kicks out. So the first person to kick out of the one-winged angel is Kenny Omega. Like, that poetry. Like, they told a great story in and out of the ring. And just, it was great. And I like that Hangman kind of alluded to his win. He had the gold trim on his gear. Kenny had the silver, like the second place. So it was kind of nice. And, Kenny took his sabbatical, and now cowboy shit's running AEW. And so all these haters, wait, so out of all the world champions, how many have been WWE guys? Only 2, but 2 have been AEW Ring of Honor. So all these people who think it's just WWE guys, watch the fucking product, because they're giving us what we want. We wanted Hangman as a champion. We got Hangman as a champion.
And to prove even more point to that, when AEW first started, honest to God, do you think the promotion would have been as successful had Hangman won the title that day? And I'm not shitting on Hangman. It's just the name of Chris Jericho is so much bigger. He had to win that match. He had to carry the championship into the Dynamite era to start the promotion. They did the total right thing. And anybody that thinks otherwise is an idiot. They're probably Vince McMahon Jr. at this point. Well, the third, I guess. I know Vince isn't technically a junior, but whatever. Anything, and the whole Moxley thing, the fans wanted that. Like it wasn't as if like they gave us Roman Reigns and shoved him down our throat and was like, "Here you go, here's your champion." It's like, no, the fans wanted that. Like it wasn't.
And they all had legitimate runs,
Yeah.
Moxley brought in Eddie Kingston, and they had like a blood feud, a personal feud. Bringing Eddie Kingston, they had great matches. Jericho's and Moxley feud is probably one of the best feuds, for a championship match in a long time. Moxley wearing the eye patch, faking him out. This long-term, storytelling with Hangman, and it's not like you always say. It's not transitional paper champions. It's not hot potatoing the title belt. When someone has a title reign, it's at least a few pay-per-views, so you get a decent run with it to establish the legitimacy of it. It's not just, oh, well, Hangman was champion for a month, so now it's going to be Bryan Danielson, and after him, it's going to be... No, because when someone has like 13 title reigns in a year, clearly you're hot-shotting your title and you need to stop.
Charlotte Flair.
Thank you. I'm glad you caught that. But.
Yeah, no, that's the exact person to prove. Here's the thing, okay? The AEW promotion has been around since the championship has been around since August 30th, 2019. They have had 4 champions. 4 since August 31st, 2019. You have Chris Jericho at 182 days, Jon Moxley 277 days, Kenny Omega 346 days, and now you have Adam Page with, when we listen to this episode, will be 1 week, 7 days. That's it. And that's what wrestling should be. It shouldn't be, oh, on Monday, this person won, and then we lead up to the pay-per-view, and then another person wins, and then a week from then, another person wins. It's like, no, a champion is a champion is a champion, should be a champion, not like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So,
I agree. One cool fact, Kenny Omega, for the longest time on his Twitter bio, had a picture of the All Out poster, and those 4 people on the All Out poster, Jericho in the top left corner, then it was Moxley in the top right, bottom left was Kenny, bottom right was Hangman. That was the order, all 4 of them on the title, which I thought was kind of cool, like a little premonition without being a premonition.
Yeah, and that just and that's another thing too. Cody mentioned this at one of his promos recently. If he really wanted to be the champion, he could have been the champion. He's following in the thing of he can't compete for the title, making it a real thing. And that's one thing I will say. You don't see any, other than Kenny Omega, you don't see any of the people that are EVPs holding belts for long periods of time. Even the Young Bucks didn't hold the tag titles for that long. I mean, they really didn't. If you look at their reign, it was one of the shorter ones in the company.
No, I agree. Overall, before we wrap up, I think I'd give this one, about a 7 or 8 too. I wouldn't say it's their best pay-per-view they've done, but it's definitely not their worst. But at least when you watch their pay-per-views, you go away more satisfied than not. I don't go away from this pay-per-view like, wow, I wasted 3 hours of my life.
Right. From what I've seen and what I've heard, it had to have been, like you said, not their worst, but also not their best. And that's the thing. AEW, I don't think they've ever had a bad pay-per-view. And again, I know they're only 2.5 years old, or whatever you want to call it at this point, roughly 2.5 years old. But that still proves a point that like there's all kinds of pay-per-views we watch that we're like, wow, that was kind of clunky like that. They don't have anything in my mind that's really below a 7, I don't think. And any of the one, and I've seen a lot of them from start to finish. This is one of the first ones I haven't seen in a long time. Some of it was I was busy and didn't get home till almost 10 that day, but it's just, it makes you, and it's funny because one of the complaints that people has is like, oh, I don't want to have to pay for pay-per-view. This is streaming and blah, blah. It's like they only do one every 3 months though. So if you break that down and you're paying $50 or $40 or whatever you end up paying, or finding ways around it to pay less, whatever it is, it's still not like they're doing it every month for the full price like it used to be back in the day. So if you divide 50 by 3, what do you have? You have almost slightly over the cost of the network when it was $9.99.
Right. you have like a little over $16 a month.
Yeah.
Which is not terrible.
That's what I'm saying. It's not like they're doing one of those every month, trying to get $50 out of you every single month.
No.
And I don't. It wouldn't surprise me if down the road they have their own service and they can go. And once they get to that stage, and they compete, the proper way, and they won't. To me, they're not the type of company that would sell out to Peacock and take the money. They would be their own company, do their own thing, and then they'd want to have control of their library. Like that, I feel like that's the thing that they really want.
Well, the big rumor is that since Warner owns HBO Max, that they're going to be able to use HBO Max as their streaming platform. Also the pay-per-view provider, because the issues with Bleacher Report and everything else too. Jericho kind of let it slip on the cruise too that it's a matter of when, not if. And they've been filming a lot of content in Orlando for dark matches and other content for it. They have some exclusive house shows that they've taped. Like there was one in Florida, the Jericho Cruise matches from all that. And he's also trying to acquire the Ring of Honor library. I know there's keeps rumors saying it's not for sale. It is for sale, but money talks, So I think that he would be smart because half his wrestlers are for Ring of Honor to get that library. And you know what? I'd subscribe to that at work. I'd probably cancel Peacock for that one and we figure something else out, because I feel like you get your more money's worth. And I'd rather cover Ring of Honor shows in the past than some of the WWEs, because I feel like sometimes we cover shows and we're like, what the fuck did we just watch?
Well, and even as clunky as the Impact Plus app is, I feel like there's better content on that app because the wrestling doesn't suck. Like we've gone through 9-10 episodes of 2005 TNA, and we've loved every minute of it. Like there has not been one show where we're like, ugh. Like there's been moments, but that's every show.
Right.
So it just goes to show you that, it doesn't have to have the WWE stamp on it to be something worth watching and worth buying.
And that's why, we're wrestling with wrestling's past and present. We're not just WWE past and present.
Yeah, we're not WWE PAP.
But make sure you tell your friends to listen to us.
Right.
All you have to do is search WPAP wherever you listen. We just hit 200 likes today on Facebook, so please follow our socials at WPAP Podcast. Next year's our 2 anniversary. Next month, that means our 2-year anniversary, so that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. And we just had the 100th episode a couple weeks ago. Also, shout out to Clementos for hosting us. They still have specials going on for the next couple of weeks till the end of November. You can get a small cheese for $6.99, a large cheese for $9.99. You can get a domestic draft pitcher for $8.99, and then the Tim special of the steak and cheese and beer for $11.99. Is that what it was?
Yep.
That's the only one I was a little unsure of. Again, I'm doing this by the seat of my pants. I'm not looking at something. And they're located at 160 Washington Street in Rochester. Clementos Pizzeria and Brew.com for more details. And again, thank you to Steve and Clementos for hosting us. Use the deals they have the rest of this month if you want to go in there and try something. Again, Steve is now the new owner, so if you've been quote unquote wronged by Clementos in the past, give them a try and save some money doing it. The end of the month, they mention our podcast and get a sweet deal on some pizza and beer.
Absolutely.
So I know I'm not the typical ad person, but I think I did okay there.
Great.
So that being said, we're gonna get ready to sign off here. Hopefully Tim's back with us next week. It's not the same without him, I will say that. I end up having to do a lot more on this end. Mongo did a lot more on the back end. So again, we're hopefully Tim can get it together for us and we can get it posted without having any issues. So
Timmy, come back. We don't want to be a fool without.
So next week we're going to cover Survivor Series 1991. That was the infamous Hogan Undertaker main event. Well, I guess it technically didn't go on last, but it was for the world title, and much more. So until then, I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And this has been Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
Drake Maverick peed himself twice.
I hope you're all having a nice day.